Judge approves deportation of Columbia graduate Mahmoud Khalil, but the fight isn't over. Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia University graduate and outspoken Palestinian activist, is now facing deportation from the United States after a judge ruled in favor of the Trump administration's efforts to remove him. Khalil, who has been legally living in the U.S. as a permanent resident, was detained last month over his participation in pro-Palestinian protests. Despite not being charged with any crime, Khalil has been held in a Louisiana detention center since March 8th. Immigration officers informed him that his involvement in demonstrations against the war in Gaza made him a target for deportation. In a heartfelt letter penned from the detention facility, he stated that his arrest was a direct result of standing up for Palestinian rights. The government's justification? A rarely used Cold War-era immigration law claiming Khalil's presence in the country is adverse to U.S. foreign policy interests. While the judge has not ordered immediate deportation, Khalil's legal team has until April 23rd to file an appeal. A student voice turned target. At just 30 years old, Mahmoud Khalil became a central figure in student-led protests at Columbia University, speaking out against the violence in Gaza. His activism was passionate but peaceful. Still, the government viewed it differently. The Trump administration leaned on a 1952 immigration statute to argue that Khalil's continued presence in the U.S. could negatively impact American foreign policy. The judge agreed, stating that the administration's argument was facially reasonable. Following the ruling, Khalil finally broke his silence in court. Calm but firm, he said, "You once told me that there's nothing more important to this court than due process and fundamental fairness. What we witnessed today showed neither." "Good riddance," says DHS Secretary. Not everyone sees Khalil as a victim. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem celebrated the ruling, posting on social media, "When you advocate for violence, glorify terrorists, and harass Jews, that privilege to live in the U.S. should be revoked. Good riddance." But Khalil's legal team insists these accusations are baseless. They say no evidence of anti-Semitism or incitement to violence has been presented in court. In fact, the so-called evidence the government submitted, only 48 hours before the ruling, consisted of a letter from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The letter admitted Khalil hadn't committed a crime and seemed to suggest he was being targeted purely for his political views. Rubio has defended the deportation as a step to protect Jewish students from what he described as harassment and violence, even if Khalil's actions were lawful. This case is far from over. Khalil's attorneys aren't backing down. Mark Vander Hout, lead counsel on the case, condemned the ruling and reaffirmed his client's right to free speech. "This is about Mahmoud's right to speak out. He hasn't broken any laws," Vander Hout said. His legal team is preparing for more hearings and has already filed a federal lawsuit in New Jersey, arguing that his arrest was unconstitutional. If they win, it could halt the deportation entirely. Johnny Sinotis, another lawyer on Khalil's team, spoke with him after the ruling. "He's staying strong and feels supported," Sinotis said. "Mahmoud isn't against America, and he's definitely not anti-Semitic. He's done nothing wrong." More allegations, but still no proof. The Trump administration has also accused Khalil of immigration fraud, claiming he failed to disclose prior employment with the British Embassy in Beirut and a United Nations agency for Palestinian refugees when applying for his green card. However, no new evidence has been brought forward to support those claims. Meanwhile, the White House issued a statement saying it's committed to enforcing immigration laws and will take action against anyone deemed a threat to U.S. foreign policy interests. What's next? Mahmoud Khalil's case is drawing attention from human rights organizations and student groups across the country. The American Civil Liberties Union called the decision pre-written, raising serious questions about fairness and transparency in the process. For now, Khalil remains in detention, 1,000 miles from his family and far from the classrooms where he once spoke up for justice. But one thing is clear, his fight is far from over.
For full video, click related link below or like and subscribe this channel.